let me try from the first to indicate the point that we're aiming at. The point is this, that human consciousness is at the same time as being a form of awareness and sensitivity and understanding, it's also a form of ignorance. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. And because of this, it leaves out things that are terribly important. It leaves out things that would, if we did know them, allay our anxieties and fears and horrors. And if we could extend our awareness, you see, to include those things that we leave out, we would have a deep interior peace. Because we would all know the one thing that you mustn't know, you know, according to the rules of our particular social game. The one thing you mustn't know, that's really not allowed, that is the lowdown on life. And the lowdown, on the one hand, means the real dirt on things. But the lowdown is also what is profound, what is mysterious, what is in the depths. And there's something left out. And our everyday consciousness screens this out in the same way that when you say you have weaving, you have, say, on this rug here in front of us, when the black finishes here, the black threads will go underneath and then appear again over here, then they'll go underneath the white and then they'll appear again over here, you know? So that the back will be the obverse pattern of the front. Now, the world is like that. Our sense organs are selective. They pick out certain things. They're receptive. For example, we have a small band of what you might call a spectrum of light, of sound, of tactile sensation, and so on, to which the human organism is sensitive. But we know that outside that small band, there is a huge range of vibrations to which we have built instruments that are sensitive. Things like cosmic rays, ultraviolet rays, gamma rays, hard X-rays, so on. They're all outside the band of our spectrum. And obviously, there are things that are outside the range of our instruments. We may build new instruments someday which will evoke, bring into our consciousness other orders of vibration altogether. But yet, as yet, we don't know about them. So you could imagine, you see, the universe is a vast, vast system of vibrations and has infinite possibilities.
Infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities. Hello to you all. You're watching RHTVLive. And of course, we're going to talk politics and geopolitics. We're streaming live from Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And there's going to be a transfer of power, not in the Netherlands. We have our own deep state agent, Dick Schoof, but in America. So for the American people watching, you guys remember, right? These UFOs and stuff like that, you know. We're going to take a look at the entertainment industry, a few episodes of the X-Files, and see the subliminal messaging, what's going on. You know, what's really going on. They use a series such as the X-Files to explain the audience these top secret things going on, right? It's happening in movies, subliminal messaging. That is what this episode is about, and the transfer of power. We're going to mix these two things, So let's take a look at what's happening in America. But first, we're going to take a look at a perspective in history, 2001. What really happened on 9/11? The shadow cabal, right? Running all these stuff. And it's not a conspiracy. It's all been laid out on a spin-off episode of the X-Files, the Lone Rangers, or something along those lines, right? We're going to take a look at this here.
What is Scenario 12D? We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
But if some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The men who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart bombed.
I can't believe it. This is about increasing arms sales.
Mm-hmm.
When?
Tonight?
How are you going to stop them? Why didn't you tell the world this? Go to the press.
You think I'd still be drawing breath 30 minutes after I made that call? The press? Who's going to run this story?
We would.
This? This is birdcage liner. Wild-eyed crap right up there with Elvis is an alien and two-headed babies.
Obviously read it.
Don't.
You see what happened there? Right? You see what happened there? This is going on. This is really going on. Right? This is not a conspiracy theory. We're just laying out the facts by using the X-Files as an example. What's going on. So let's take a look at another X-Files episode. This year, season 10, Fox Mulder and Dana Scully came back after some absence of a few years, and they made season 10, and this is the first episode where you have this conspiracy guy, and he made contact with Fox Mulder, and we're going to take a look at this here. Very interesting.
The tentacles reach far back into the last century, but it wasn't until victories in Europe and Japan and the onset of the Cold War that political and economic conditions became perfect for actual execution. A conspiracy bigger and more secret than the Manhattan Project.
More odious and far-reaching.
No sooner had we defeated Germany than a new threat started appearing in skies over America, drawn to Earth by the latest threat to extinction, the H-bomb. Explosions acting as transducers, drawing alien life forms through wormholes in spaceships using electrogravitic propulsion. Advanced extraterrestrial species visiting us, concerned for mankind and the threat of our self-destruction, forestalling our annihilation through their own self-sacrifice, and crashes at Roswell, more importantly, places like Aztec. World leaders signed secret memos directing scientific studies of alien technology and biochemistry. Classified studies were done at military installations S4, Groom Lake, Wright-Patterson, and Dulce. Extracting alien tissue. Tests were done on unsuspecting human subjects. And elaborately staged abductions in craft using alien technology recovered from the down saucers. Including human hybridization through gene editing and forced implantation of alien embryos.
Why do such a thing and lie about it? Our own government.
Your own government lies as a matter of course, as a matter of policy. The Tuskegee experiments on black men in the 30s, Henrietta Lacks.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine a government hiding, hoarding alien technology for 70 years at the expense of human life and the future of the planet. Driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war. To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose. The corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday. The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
Or a simulated alien invasion using alien replica vehicles that exist and are already in use.
An alien invasion of the U.S.
The Russians tried it in '47.
You can't say these things.
I'm going to say them tomorrow.
Now, you need to separate fact from fiction, right? So, in this episode, they're basically using the alien angle, right, to make an episode out of it. So, you know, but, yeah, is this really fiction? Yeah, or is it fact? Because we saw, we saw drones over the United States and stuff like that. So we saw. We also saw people fighting back against the drones, and it's really amazing to see, you know. So we're going to take a look at this here. Drone spotted over Long Island Airport. What else? What's happening in New Jersey? All these weird drones, right? So what's really happening here? Well, there's a shadowy organization that wants power. We know so much, but there is like a barrier, you know, the top secret stuff. And so what's really happening in the United States? Does it, is there a connection with the transfer of power? Who knows? Who knows? These are questions we're putting on the table. And let's take a look at this here. John Lear says aliens are here and they're not our friends. So let's take a look at this.
Hello and welcome to On the Record. Those of you who joined us last week were probably amazed, as I was, by some of the latest research in the field of UFOs. There is so much to talk about, however, we were unable to fit it all into one program, so my guest again this week is UFO researcher, former state Senate candidate, and award-winning pilot John Lear. Mr. Lear, nice to have you here again.
Always a pleasure to be here, George.
To begin with, we have this concept of the people from other planets as little green men. Are they green from what you know? Are they all the same, or we got different kinds of them?
George, there's at least 70 different species, and probably more. But yes, as odd as it sounds, there are little green men. That's not the ones we usually see, though. We see the little gray ones. They're about 4.5 feet tall. And we see the ones that are called the Nordics. They're about 7 feet tall, look like us, but they're invariably blonde hair and blue-eyed. They're one of the species that we have on ice. One of their crashes we recovered.
Obviously, with different species, they have different motives. I mean, are there good aliens and bad aliens?
Good aliens
from what you know?
and bad aliens, and all kinds of ways and reasons for interacting with us.
And what are some of the reasons? Why would they be here?
Genetic experiments, trying.
Now you hear that? Genetic experiments. Now that ties into what's happening with the missing people, in my opinion. We know about Dave Paulides. We support Dave Paulides, and you know, he also talks about missing people. We're also going to show that, and we're going to show a case which is a very weird case, if we can find it, and yeah, we're going to show that. But, you know, tying this all up, isn't it weird? Isn't it odd? Aren't you a taxpayer who you know, should trust your government? Top secret files and this and that. Why are you not allowed to know what really happened in Roswell? Why are you not allowed to know who killed Kennedy? Why are you not allowed to know what really happened on 9/11? Well, we just show that via the X-Files. This is, you know, obvious, right? This is really happening. So let's take a look at Dave Paulides with Huck. Yeah, we love Huck. And who is Huck? Well, this is from 7 hours ago. An upload.
Normal disappearances that we're going to talk about.
You also see here a UFO missing 4011, the UFO connection. Weird stuff going on, you know, but we heard there are many species coming towards Earth or are on Earth. We're not alone, you know, and the government is not willing to say so. There used to be to prevent panic and stuff. Yeah, but now there are so many cameras, you know, so many things going on, like crypto creatures, skinwalkers, and stuff like that. Not only Bigfoot, but also small people. There are like Indian folklore talking about small people. Who knows what's going on, right? Who knows what's going on? So, a sheep herder is found naked, and a ghost saves a lost hunter. So let's take a look at this here.
Couple of things. First of all, thanks for being here. Make sure you're subscribed, right? Want to make sure you're subscribed. And I know many of you aren't getting notifications. I'm sorry. And many of you have commented that you can't give me a thumbs up because there's no thumbs up on your screen. What can I say? It's a strange, strange world. But we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into this. First case. Involves a man named David Howerton, 64 years old, missing November 2nd, 1956. In my books, I talk about missing sheep herders. A lonely job out in the middle of nowhere, just you and the livestock. A lot of times these have been happening in Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, Montana. Well, this case, Mr. Howerton, he was raised in Newport, Arkansas, lived with his wife. He worked for what's called Basket Ranch. And he worked for him during the lambing season. And there were always a couple of Australian sheepdogs in the area whenever he was out. Again, this was in Wyoming. Well, on November 1st, the ranch hands had dinner at the Basket Ranch. And it was a rare occasion because most of the time all the ranch hands never got together. But the sheep were in close, and so Mr. Basket wanted everyone to come in and have dinner, which they did. And he was at dinner with all of his hands. And he and David were close because David didn't work for him all the time. It was only during lambing season. Well, he came over to him and he asked David how he was feeling, and David said he had a really bad headache. And he says it was just kind of a passing comment. He says, I'm not sick, but I got a pretty bad headache. Well, after dinner, David left to go mind the herd. And the next day, ranch hands went out to check on David, and he wasn't there. He had left a note stating that he was out looking for some missing sheep. So stop there for a second. The number of times that I've written about people that have disappeared going to check on animals is phenomenal. Most of the time, somebody goes out looking for missing cows, steers. This time it was sheep. Well, that was on November 2nd. November 3rd through the 6th, everybody on the ranch was looking for him. And they kept moving the perimeter out further and further. And then they started to cover ground that had already been covered twice before. Well, at 1 p.m. on November 9th, this went on for 6 days, covering areas that it had already covered before. David's body is located in a small gully 45 miles north of a place called Powder River, Wyoming, in Indian Creek. They stated that it appeared that David might have fallen 25 feet, landed, and stayed unconscious and had not moved. Now, I've never seen this in any report ever. Searchers stated in an unusual note that the ground under the body, where the body had landed, the ground had been indented 1 to 2 inches from the body blow. Article stated it was a terrific impact. That's a little odd. In fact, I'll say that's ultra odd. No dogs were with him. One of the dogs was never found. The livestock was never found, the sheep.
Now, imagine this, right? we want to expand the human consciousness. So we know there are aliens among us using hyperdimensional travel. Stuff we cannot, contemplate about, So imagine a UFO flying over, picking up the sheep herder, and his dog, and, experimenting and stuff. And then suddenly dropping him on the ground. The UFO connection. So, yeah, that's my theory on this, right? And these are very weird cases.
And he was that subgroup of missing, he was a sheep herder. When I think of a 25-foot drop, first of all, I doubt it. I doubt it because this man had worked in the area for many years, but only in 30-day cycles. And a 25-foot drop, they made a note that it was highly unusual and very deep. I tend to think maybe he was dropped a little higher than that. Just my feeling. Next case happened out of Washington. Also a sheep herder. Man's name was John Davis. Went missing August 26, 1956, 8 miles east of Burbank, Washington. So this is Burbank. This is the Columbia River. This is the Oregon border. 8 miles east, he was out in this area named Rouleau, Thiel, Sudbury. This is a lonely area out here, folks. But you can kind of see. Well, being a sheep herder, he worked for the R.J. Hooper Ranch. And he had been staying alone at the ranch, minding the livestock. The owner was out of town. The other people were given leave, so he's alone there. So supplies were coming in on August 26th. And they drove in with the supplies, and they couldn't find John, which was super unusual. They searched the area, found a majority of the sheep, couldn't find him. The person called for local ranchers. They all responded, and they came in on horseback, on foot. They weren't finding anything. Search went on for 5 days. They didn't find anything. They found it highly unusual. In fact, there was talk that maybe he just abandoned the stock, but nobody believed it because he was such a reliable and known sheep herder to this part of Washington. Nobody believed it. And they thought over the next couple of months, if he had walked away, they were going to find him. But they hadn't. 6 months later, February 18th, 1957, a fellow sheep herder named Pat McDermott was with his stock about 1.5 miles from the ranch house where John was staying. And he finds John's body within that primary search zone in a field. Originally, it was believed that he died of natural causes. But the article stated, but circumstances piqued the interest of investigators. Pat McDermott found John naked laying in a field with his clothes neatly piled next to the body. That's what it said. What? Now, next to his clothes were his watch and his billfold, and in the wallet, the billfold, was a significant amount of cash. Investigators said because there was cash in the wallet, there was no foul play. But they were baffled by the scenario.
Again, what really happened here? This is during the 1950s. The incident in New Mexico happened, right? This is when Area 51 basically was started, basically. Let's see what this comment says. Roger, are you aware of the Valley of the Headless? Yeah, we know. There are strange things going on also in Canada, right? We know the Headless Valley. Yeah, we also know about that road, the Highway of Tears. Yeah, we know about that. We covered that. So, and feet washing ashore and stuff like that. Yeah, we cover that. So, yeah, this is material to think about, right? I mean, if someone gets robbed, you mostly rob him money, watch, jewelry, and stuff like that. But this guy ends up naked with the clothes next to him and all his possessions. This is very, very odd, right? What happened to this dude? And tying into what we previously were showing, the X-Files, and we're trying to expand the consciousness. What is shown on TV is basically predictive programming, because they're also trying to distort reality, right? Because if you talk about 9/11 and the cabal running Washington, then they say, yeah, you saw that on a series. Yeah, I saw that too, that was on TV. No, it's really happening. It's really happening. The Roswell incident and UFOs, why not talk about it? What's so wrong about that? Why are you deemed a conspiracy theory when you know that there are multiple species on this planet? So
the fact that he was extremely trusted, reliable, and diligent in his sheep herding, all of this made no sense whatsoever. It also made no sense that he wasn't found during that initial search. Remember, this is in Washington. Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana have some of the weirdest disappearances of all time. Now, I'm going to ask you to spend significant time paying attention to this story, because this is going to lead into something that I've never talked about before. So, I was looking into the disappearance of a young man named Dylan McKinnon, 17 years old. He went missing October 17th, 1932. He was a student at Billings High School in Montana, and he came down to Wyoming with family and friends to hunt. Montana border up here. Trapper Creek Wilderness, this is the area they was hunting. This is Graybull, Montana. This is Highway 25, which comes up from Colorado, goes all the way through the middle of Wyoming. He's hunting in this range right here, the Bighorns. I've had several cases where I've written about disappearances in those mountains. So Dylan was described as extremely strong, super smart, had hunted since he was 13 years old, every year, was an excellent horseman. Everything about him exuded his experience in the outdoors. Nobody worried about him. Well, on October 17th, Dylan was with his friends and he went out and he shot an elk. He came back to get his horse because he was going to go back out, get the elk, clean it, and haul it back in. And he told his companions that he was going to go out and get it and be back before dark. That was on October 17th. As this was happening, an unexpected, serious storm was coming in. And Dylan didn't come back that night. The next day, his friends, family got other hunters from Grable to help them go out and search for their son. But they returned because of extremely cold temperatures and dense fog. Remember that, dense fog. And the Bighorns were the center of the search. His friends said that Dylan rode out on his horse and he had matches, so they knew he could stay warm if he wanted. But this was a serious storm. And it was unexpected, that's what they said. From October 19th to October 24th, 1932, searchers from Montana and Wyoming converged on the area with the assistance of the local sheriff, and they were looking for Dylan. They had some of the most experienced hunters and ranchers in the area that knew that country upside down and backwards. Well, as they're searching, it kept snowing, getting colder, weather was miserable, it was bad. Finally, on October 25th, everyone, including the parents, agreed to give up the search because they didn't know where else to search. And the weather was horrific. They knew their son couldn't live through it. Now, unrelated to the search, on October 28th, there was another hunting party that was near Timberline at the upper reaches of Timber Creek. And they're walking along and they come to a big pine tree. And under the pine tree, they see what's essentially a big bed of pine needles. They started looking around and they found Dylan laying on the bed of needles, frozen, stiff, with his boots and his socks off. His horse was never found. The sheriff came in. Well, first of all, the hunters left. Yeah, they all heard you. The sheriff came in, removed the body. He commented that Dylan was higher in the range and near Timberline in an extremely remote area. Dylan was the only young person to ever disappear in this area, and I did an extensive search. Other people in the other Bighorn range, yes, but not anywhere close to this. Now, why do I say this? Because during my research on this, I was blown away. I was blown away.
Now, how do you end up in a tree and in a bed of dens, as Dave describes it? You know, you're being dropped. That's how, right? You're being dropped. These experiments have been going on, and the government knows about this. And yeah, it's not science fiction. It's science fact. right? Abductions and stuff like that. So, yeah, we have that going on. We also have this comment, right? The Valley of the Headless Men. And of course, the Nahanni National Park is hiding stuff, and that is the Valley of the Headless Men, and very strange things happening there, and we want to know the truth. We just want to know the truth. What are you hiding, Justin Trudeau? You're leaving anyway. What does the Conservative Party know in Canada? What do the Liberals know? What's happening in the Nahanni National Valley Park, whatever. You know, we're going to take a look at this here.
The Nahanni Valley lies within the Nahanni National Park. This valley is commonly referred to as the Valley of the Headless Men. Surprisingly, few people have heard of the Nahanni National Park, and even fewer have set foot upon it. According to Statista.com, the park only sees 1,000 visitors per year. That is in stark contrast to the Rocky Mountains National Park, which sees well over 4 million visitors annually. This perhaps makes sense when you realise that the park can only be accessed by boat or float plane, and the nearest road is around 90 miles away. This name, Valley of the Headless Men, began to gain traction when various anomalies were discovered within the valley. One such incident was that of Willie and Frank McLeod, who disappeared there. The brothers set off on their expedition in 1904, where they travelled to the valley in search of gold. Willie was a renowned hunter whom the natives were impressed with and said that he was as good a hunter as any. Sometime in the spring of 1905, Willie and Frank had been successful and located gold on the Bennett Creek. Willie took samples of the precious materials in the area and loaded them onto a boat that he and his brother put together. Willie unfortunately lost these stones and rocks when his boat upturned in the Flat River Canyon, but he did later return to collect some more nuggets. The brothers then made contact with a Scottish engineer called Weir, whom they partnered with, and together they travelled back to the gold. This was the last time that these three men would ever be heard from. Numerous, exhaustive searches were carried out for these men, but their discovery would elude everyone. That is, until 3 years later. Their brother, Charlie, would not let their disappearance go and had a burning desire to understand what had happened to them. He never gave up the search, and in 1908 he found both Frank and Willie in an area of the bank of the Nahanni River. Reports vary here. Popular belief is that the skeletal remains of the pair were missing their heads. However, the earliest dated publication that I could find on the incident, an article by the MacLeans written in 1947, indicates that is incorrect and their hair was actually something that helped identify them. Weir, on the other hand, to this day has never been found. A common belief among prospectors at the time was that they were being targeted, though by who, and the motive has never been made clear. Some believe that people indigenous to the area viewed the prospectors as trespassers, while others believe that the association between the disappearances and the gold was the most important aspect, presumably indicating that whoever they were wanted it for themselves. Though that has never been proven, and I could find no mention of any suspects. The McLeod brothers weren't the only ones to disappear under such circumstances either. In 1917, 12 years after Charlie found his brother's skeletal remains, Martin Jorgensen, another prospector, also vanished in the area. It's thought that Martin had found gold and then proceeded to send word to Poole Field, who was near Ross River, that he had struck it rich. Poole was a trader, trapper and prospector in the Nahanni region. He'd also Royal Northwest Mounted Police as a young man, and he knew Martin well. When Poole arrived at Martin's cabin, he found it burned and he found Martin's body. What does seem to be true though, unlike the McLeod brothers, Martin was discovered headless. Martin's gold was never discovered and no one knows where it ended up. Interestingly, 10 years after this...
So, people ending up headless and stuff like that in the Nahanni National Park in Canada, you know, weird stuff happening, people disappearing. We know what's going on. At least there's a prevailing theory, you know. Let's put this on table. Our government is basically creating a world government to align with a certain alien species, and you know, they want control over us. Yeah, let's put that on table. Let's see if I'm right or wrong, because we know there's a hierarchy. There's government, shadow government, the deep state. But above that, there's also an organization, the United Nations. Shadowy groups coming together and, yeah, profiting from wars and distracting the population. Oh, look at that war, look at that war. No, you're profiting from the war, right? It's pump and dump. It's all pump and dump, man. You know, Trump said that within 24 hours, we're going to solve the Ukraine crisis, the war in Ukraine. And tomorrow is his inauguration. And we're going to take a look at what's happening in the United States. Let's take a look at We Are Change. Trump in hiding, anti-drone tech deployed as alien aircraft reported. What's the underlying currency here? There is a alien species, a hyperdimensional species, put it that way. And who knows, maybe they're far in time, from the future, going back to the past. Who knows? We have to expand our minds, and we have to research on what's really going on. All right? So is Trump in hiding? I think so, because he has made many, many enemies. And it's very important to see what's going on, right? And report on what's going on. These are not theories, you know, at least in my opinion, right? Because they're showing it on TV. They're showing it on TV. So let's take a look at We Are Change.
The drones are coming, or at least their disclosure.
Boss, these are the killer drones.
They are from China?
Now, I don't know if they're from China, as some major questions are emerging right now about the safety and security of Donald Trump, as still we have many unanswered questions about the drones over New Jersey. Are we going to get closer to some of the answers, as there's a lot of crazy, wild reports of a third moving of the inauguration, anti-drone tech, a part of Trump's entourage, military planes. What's really going on here? Well, we're going to be doing our best to make sense of it in this particular video, as of course the answers to what's really going on are probably going to be surprising for you to watch on this particular channel, as it looks like we are about to be on the dawn of a new era here in the United States of America, as we got footage from last night in Virginia, where Donald Trump was watching fireworks, as a lot of people are impatiently waiting for this transfer of power to now officially happen, as some people have their doubts to if it actually will happen. This is we're getting unconfirmed reports, specifically from Washington, D.C., that Donald Trump might not actually be even sworn in the Capitol, as of course the official inauguration was moved to that particular location because of, quote, alleged extreme weather. Now we're hearing that that location might be moved itself. And there's even rumors that Donald Trump might be inaugurated at midnight tonight in order to deal with the larger potential security threats that are allegedly out there. Because if there are...
Now, from what I've heard from Americans, they were very, very upset that TikTok was banned. They use it as income, and they were very upset. Many, many Americans were crying over TikTok. The income was lost because most platforms, you know, they monetize, right? Such as YouTube, and you know, we don't want their money. We are free thinkers, you know, and we don't want their money, but they don't pay out. TikTok pays out. And you know, this is how many, many Americans have their income. Jobs are outsourced, right? Gone to Taiwan, gone to China. All these factories in the Asian Pacific are used as proxies, because the Chinese have a working mentality and the Americans have an exploitative mentality, right? We are the world empire. We can go anywhere. Yeah, we're Americans. You know, that is the train of thought. Exceptional country. It started out as an exceptional country. But now people are exceptionally taxed, targeted, and you know, they have no voice. So, and they use their voice on TikTok, and Parliament banned TikTok, and now TikTok is back, right? After a ban for 2 hours or so. You know, this is all reality. You know, this is reality. The mind and distraction on what's, you know, what's really going on, right? But this is the freedom of speech. The freedom of speech is under attack in the Western society. You're not allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about that. We have censors on this, censors on that. Yeah, we are democratic, but we censor Russia Today and anything of Russian influence. Oh, bad. So let's take a listen at what Luke has to say here.
Our security threats. A lot of people that are authorities don't usually like to talk about them, as we're also hearing that the inauguration parade has been fully canceled. The watch party at the Capitol area also has been canceled, as of course the victory rally is still going on here, as a lot of this is just being blamed on weather, as a lot of the people in Washington, D.C. right now are saying it's not that cold. As the cold...
In historical context, the last president who had enclosed transfer of power was Lyndon B. Johnson after the assassination of Kennedy. You know, he put a hand on a Bible in a plane and was inaugurated on the plane during the trip to Washington, D.C. So that really happened. It's not something that I made up, right? So this is the second time in American history, recent history, that the inauguration will not be outside, but somewhere inside, enclosed, probably in a bunker or something like that, you know, with a blue screen behind him and top military brass, you know, or already enclosing Trump because they know that the enemy is also within the political parties and the NGOs and, you know, these shadowy organizations that have been demonizing Trump from the beginning, right? We remember in 2015 when Donald Trump went off the escalator. The Simpsons also has that episode. You know, we know, and we know why the Simpsons is predicting everything, because it's part of the script, right? You have American generals that are resisting a fascist takeover. And they promoted Donald Trump as a businessman to save America. Now, I'm not particularly for Trump nor against him. I wish him all the best in the White House. But he is overprotected now that he is president, right? They tried to lock him up. Did not happen in many states and stuff like that. They tried multiple times to assassinate him, you know. So, yeah, he is a big target for the shadowy organizations that have UFO technology and are abducting people, which Dave Paulides mentions in his missing 411 cases.
Hasn't set in yet and is expected to go down dramatically this upcoming Monday, January 20th. As we are also getting reports of alleged new, quote, anti-drone tech being used in this particular motorcade, as this is allegedly pictures of anti-drone jammers on top of his vehicles, as it definitely does seem like there are some additional security enhancements with, you know, all the other things happening in this world that we still don't have any answers or clues to exactly what's really going on here with. There's a lot of people now saying this new footage of Trump's motorcade with these new kind of devices on top of them are alleged new tech. There's other people saying, no, this is stuff that they previously had before. They're called ECMs, electronic countermeasures, and they were previously found in presidential motorcades. There's also reports of Trump flying on military planes, as of course that's also the tradition here. According to Reuters, as Trump flew with Air Force One and not of course on his airplane to Washington, D.C. from a U.S. military airplane that was supplied by Joe Biden, as this is the alleged traditional transition norm. This, as if you're Donald Trump, you would be a little mistrustful, you know, against the system that tried to politically prosecute you, tried to put you in jail for 700 years, and of course, you could extrapolate, also took shots at you in more ways than one. As today, we also got the news that Trump wants one of his agents who covered him during his attempted assassination attempt to be the lead head of the Secret Service. As clearly, this is a larger move made specifically as Donald Trump is trying to make sure that the people protecting him are the people that he actually trusts. It looks like he actually trusts this guy whose name is Sean Curran and was the head of his personal detail that now will be the director of the Secret Service. As of course, this is Sean here in this very iconic photo with Donald Trump's bloodied ear after shots just rang out, taking the life of an innocent bystander and injuring others behind him. As we still don't know exactly what in the world happened there and why other Secret Service agents as well as local and federal authorities failed to do their job. We don't know the motive. We don't know what really was going on here. We don't know the huge lapses of security. And if I'm Donald Trump and we still don't even have any answers, and the case is closed with this guy being taken out, cremated, and eliminated before anyone could even do an autopsy or an investigation to what was going on, I would have a lot of questions, especially since we just also found out that it was Donald Trump's own Attorney General, Bill Barr, who was connected to Jeffrey Epstein through his father that gave Jeffrey Epstein his start, that it was Bill Barr and the DOJ when Trump was president of the United States that literally went to Jeffrey Epstein and said, we'll give you a sweetheart deal of a lifetime if you just give us incriminating dirt on Donald Trump. So Donald Trump's own cabinet members were literally trying to put him away in jail forever in exchange for releasing one of the most prolific child herders in the world. This is still, we have larger questions remaining too. Okay, that's like another larger conspiracy here unfold.
That is a spy apparatchik, right? Trying to get dirt on Donald Trump, right? They want him in jail. And why? Why do they want this guy in jail? You know, he's a philanthropist, has led the life with the golden spoon, you know, also with the ups and downs, you know, investments that did not work out, but still a very powerful man, right? And he has a dream. America was founded on a dream, the dream of liberty, freedom in the pursuit of happiness, right? And that dream that became a nightmare during the early 1900s, right? The first expansionist power that, if you look at Panama, for example, right? That's American influence. That's also a dream sold out to be a proxy state government and have power over Southern America, right? So,
against Donald Trump. Again, you got to remember, he's a convicted felon. He was just facing 700 years. He was just shot at. And if there's anyone to be a little bit uncomfortable with the larger kind of security situation, it is him. As of course, when I personally heard that the inauguration was being moved, the first thing that came to my mind was drones. It's probably the drones that we still don't have any kind of legitimate answers on that are able to, of course, defy our airspace, our security, our countermeasures, and be able to mess with the highest ranks of our military, with our military allegedly not being able to do anything about them. And before talking about the drones, we wanted to remind everyone to sign up to lookunfiltered.com. We got to...
Yeah, we're not going to sign up to you, Luke. No offense on that, right? We respect you, but yeah, we don't have the money to fund you, right? We're doing this voluntarily, and I don't see myself as a journalist. I just want to give the frame of reality here, the way I see it, right? And I think that is very close to reality, what's really happening. Over here in the Netherlands, we had someone missing for 10 days, and he was found in the woods somewhere in the Netherlands. So for 10 days, he was gone? Really? You do get to wonder. We're talking about extraterrestrial species experimenting on human beings and cattle and stuff like that, you know. About the Headless Valley, well, if you look at pop culture, there is a certain alien collecting heads. Remember the Predator? Now, if you study what Dave Paulides said, he also mentions hunters who see something in the woods, a distortion of what they see, basically, right? If you look in a pond, you put a stick in a pond and you see a distortion. So, and that's what these hunters saw. So, and we know there are many many aliens, species walking around. So put your mindset on that, right? And missing people, connect the dots here,
February 2nd. And more importantly, we're also doing live podcast episodes that are only available just for members and no one else at all. As we just shot one with Zuby, as you get to participate in.
You see, I understand why Luke does this. Asks for support on his platform, and it's a way of income. Yeah, you are allowed to have an independent income, right? So, and people use platforms, sponsor me. RHTVLive does not want money. We're just showing the frame of reality here. Putting things on table, such as UFOs. I'm not a weird conspiracy theorist when I talk about that. I mean, Congress was talking about that, right? The U.S. Congress was talking about UFOs, and yeah, I'm not weird. So let's take a look at Tucker Carlson. He has an update on the Trump shooting. He recorded this 2 days ago, and we're going to take a look at this here. And of course, there are ads. Tucker Carlson has his own network. We support you, Tucker. We wish that you would go to Romania. Very, very important here. What's happening in Romania. I put a comment on that somewhere on your videos. So let's take a look at this here.
Awful, evil things.
The John Brennan hand.
Yeah. Was there somebody there looking for super disturbed, impressionable young men to kind of poke with the stick? Like, Trump's and Butler, you should go check that out. So you have the incompetent hand and then the devious hand. So that to me is option 3. And they weren't working with each other, but they were creating the conditions to allow that what happened to happen. And then I think the 4th one is the government just killed him.
Oh, wait. We need to go back because you started on number 2. So we're trying to skip the ads here. Sorry, Tucker, but we're adless. We don't want ads, but we support you as an independent journalist. And finally, you've broken away from the frame of consensus, right? There's a consensus going on in Washington, and journalists follow that consensus. And, this is why the people at the Capitol can do whatever they want, right? As dogs, you guys go towards an article, whether it's real or not, you are reporting on it, such as the Russian influence with the Trump campaign and stuff like that. We know Mueller, FBI agent back in the Bush era, was supposed to look at what happened during 9/11, and there was a Saudi family supplying, basically giving shelter to one of the terrorists that did 9/11. And Mueller said, nope, nothing happening here. He covered it up. So, and later he was investigating the Russian collusion with Donald Trump. These are projections, right? Projections. Throw the mud and see if it sticks. And it did not stick.
That to me is the weirdest thing about it.
But it was a shooting. It was an assassination attempt, and it raised like the most pressing possible questions about a lot of different things. And, you know, I understand the news media didn't want to give Trump any advantage, didn't want to run the picture of him triumphant. I get it. But you would think that every elected official, every American would want to know how was this allowed to happen? It was allowed to happen, but by whom and why and how? And I don't hear anybody, including Republicans, asking those questions. So, like, what is this?
Yeah, so I kind of look at it as three big questions. Who's the shooter?
Yes.
Everything that kind of puts him together. How did they let it happen? That whole process. And then what happened to everyone who let it happen? And then within that, like the framework I have, trying to figure out, you know, what exactly happened is you can look at it as like option one, just a total snafu across the board. Everyone failed, accidents happen, guy manages to get up there. It's exactly what it looks like. So that's option one. And then you've got option two, which is kind of what I would call strategic incompetence. So you have DHS, which runs Secret Service, and the Secret Service is a soup sandwich from top to bottom. Like, it's a disaster. Culturally, everything about it. Did you have people who were making that even more difficult?
Yeah. What's her name from Secret Service stepped down, you know, and we cover that, right? I only forgot her name. So, she stepped down, and basically there's a vacuum within the Secret Service. This is why Trump is protected by the military faction. You see a faction, as of shown X-Files episode, there are factions, right? Factions that want the levers of power, the executive power. Now, there are lobby groups around that executive power. Look at the declassified files of Operation Northwoods and Operation Gladio, right? You have to see this in perspective. They use that as a blueprint for 9/11. So the real perpetrators of 9/11 are still amongst you. And it would not surprise me if George Soros, for instance, has a very big part in 9/11.
Who were deliberately making Trump vulnerable on the off chance that maybe someone would go solve their problems for them. So that's my number two. My number three kind of scenario is it encompasses all of number two, but you kind of have two different hands of government. You've got the Secret Service hand, which is just totally incompetent, making them completely vulnerable. But unbeknownst to that hand, you have this other hand, like I would call it like the Russiagate hoax hand. These people who are just always doing awful, evil things.
The John Brennan hand.
Yeah. Was there somebody there looking for super disturbed, impressionable young men to kind of poke with the stick? Like, you know, Trump's and Butler, you should go check that out. So you have the incompetent hand and then the devious hand. So that to me is option three. And they weren't working with each other, but they were creating the conditions to allow that what happened to happen. And then I think the fourth one is the government just killed him. It's like those are, I kind of look at everything through those lenses and try to figure out, can we disprove this one? What fits here? And like where I am.
Well, where I am, describing your options, is option three. Two factions setting up the environment for some lonely nut to do this. And Secret Service knew about this. This is why that woman stepped down. What's her name? We're going to look it up. Anyway, this is the theory we're laying on table, right? Now, most of the times we don't speculate that much. We just follow the geopolitical stream here. But we also have to think in their perspective, right? It's about power. They want power. They don't want to lose the power. You know, this is happening. We're also going to show James O'Keefe, who's also on the front lines confronting people. But, you know, this is happening, and yeah, I think it's option 3, right? Many factions trying to gain power. We also saw this in Ukraine, for example. The transfer of power, the Azov battalion, you know, the Azov army faction are extreme nationalists, right, in Ukraine. So we have Stephen Bandera in Ukraine, who's basically a war criminal, who killed many people, but he's honored in the west of Ukraine. You know, there's a statue of him and stuff like that. And many people follow his ideology, right? And this faction comes into power in Kiev via elections that the European Union just meant together, right? Because there was a power vacuum. They used radicals to overthrow the government. Yanukovych flees to Russia, and the European Union has an interim government. What's his name? Yatsenyuk and Poroshenko. And then a new transfer of power with Zelensky, who does not want to lose his power and, you know, basically operates as a proxy for the military-industrial complex, right? Fighting Russia, also under a frame of consensus, which is a lie. They're blaming Russia for what's happening in Ukraine, but basically there's transfer of power. Radicals come into power. They throw Ukrainian Russian politicians in the garbage can. We also show that, you know, on previous episodes. So basically they're hunting Russian Ukrainians or Ukrainian Russians, and this is how the whole conflict started. This is why the east of Ukraine says, hey, we're not going to be part of this. We're autonomous regions from now on. The Republic of Luhansk, the Republic of Donetsk, and Mariupol, you know, all these regions declaring themselves independent. And Kiev says, no, no, that is not democratic. So they're trying to take over the Donbass again, whilst, you know, anyway, that's a side branch, right? The real thing here is what happened during the assassination attempt on Trump. Why are they covering it up? Why is the media looking the other way, not asking questions? You know, journalists should ask this question. Journalists should find out what's really happening. We're putting everything on table as a theory, right? But the way I look at it, it's really accurate, put it that way. So we're going to take a listen to this.
I am now like kind of between 2 and 3. I refuse to believe this was just a series of unfortunate accidents and incompetence that's put together. It's just not. I just don't believe it. because I've been alive for the last 10 years, watching everything they do.
Yes.
And yet, at the same time, I don't think there's evidence for like the JFK style. Like we all know, Lee Harvey Oswald didn't do it, right?
Of course,
it's absurd. So I don't think there's.
Do we? Because there are still people, stating that the magic bullet theory that the Warren Commission gave as answer on the assassination, that is true. I would like to talk to an American or Canadian about these subjects, So maybe we'll put out a link some other time, because these are very interesting topics. And many factions trying to take over power. This is why Joe Biden stepped down during the presidential race. We remember that. There are many factions within the Democratic Party, extremists, and such as Maxine Waters, very extreme woman, saying to homeless people, "Go home." We show that. They don't care. They don't care. They're just there to fill their own pockets and to stay in power so they can fill their own pockets. And the war in Ukraine is a money laundering system, right? You have investors investing in Ukraine, in Western Ukraine, not Eastern Ukraine, partly because the autonomous regions, but also because of Russia and their influence within those regions, right? So that's a side branch. It has to be said, because we're looking at a very large perspective here,
There's any evidence, or at least I've not seen any, to suggest that was replicated here. So I think it's somewhere in between deliberate incompetence to make him vulnerable, and then you had some cell somewhere finding someone to urge to go do it in ways that would make it very hard to trace.
So thank you for starting with your conclusion. Let's work backward and go through by number the three questions that you raised at the outset. Who was Crooks, Thomas Crooks, the shooter?
Yeah, we still don't know. Like it
isn't that odd, right? You have a presidential candidate for the Republican Party, Donald J. Trump, assassination attempt, killed. Crooks is killed. It's also a very weird name, isn't it? Crooks. Yeah, you're a crook when you want to shoot someone, right? Anyway, Crooks is killed. And as Luke had said, no autopsy report and bodies burned. Yeah, dead people don't talk, right? Dead people don't talk. Isn't there something called, justice, law? Are you supposed to cuff the guy and have a confession and stuff like that? Isn't that the procedural way of doing things, right? Nope, not anymore. Not anymore. After 9/11, everyone is a terrorist. And the hyper sterilization and stuff like that, every American is popping pills. We know. This is why Robert F. Kennedy had a presidential campaign with the Democrats, and the radical faction of the Democrats said, nope, we're not going to do that. Jill Stein was also a candidate, and nope, Jill Stein, nope. Tulsi Gabbard, the same thing. Radicals are in power during the Biden administration, and they don't care. They do not care. Look at the Palestinian issue, for example. Right? Palestine, Gaza is laid to rubble, and you have these Democrats going to parties, and oh, so many people died. So many people died. How many people? Oh, yeah, okay. You profited from it, right? Right? You filled your pockets. We're all pawns on a chessboard. So that's what's really happening. And this is very, very sad.
It's wild. This kid comes out of nowhere, manages to get on the roof, shoots President Trump, fires 8 shots before anyone even like remotely tries to bother him. Is able to fly a drone there for like 10 or 20 minutes. Did recon multiple times throughout the day. Had an operable IEDs in his car. Had a bomb in his house. And we still know basically nothing about him. It's crazy. So America First Legal, they sued to get his academic records, and turns out he was a really good student. I think he got his entire time in high school and college, like maybe 2 C's. I think one was in Spanish and one was in differential equations, and the rest were mostly A's and some B's here and there. So he was like a smart kid. One of the congressional committees did an investigation looking into it. And parents really didn't know much about their own son. Like, I think either the mom or the dad at the point asked, are you gay? Like, you're not dating anyone? What's going on? Like, they don't even know kind of what's going on there. We know the FBI has like his phone, his devices, his computer. They know who he was talking to. They know where he went. They know where he bought stuff. They know what he searched for. And we don't know anything about that. So there's a Senate report from the Homeland Security Committee that tried to dig into it. And there are 2 congressional committees in the House and the Senate that actually did a really good job, given all the constraints they have, figuring stuff out. So they asked the FBI, all these questions, because the FBI took the lead on it. Give us all this information. At the time the Senate put out their initial report,
So the Senate makes a commission, right? We've seen this in American history, right? The Pearl Harbor Commission, also the Warren Commission, 9/11 Commission. These are whitewash commissions. This is why there is a commission, right? To at least get some answers on certain things. Right? The public has a right to know. But know what? Know what? Right? What does the public has a right to know? Not the truth. The truth is buried amongst the rubble of the fallen towers of prosperity. Yeah.
FBI had given them 27 pages total.
How? I mean, it's Congress. They could shut the FBI down. Like, what? I don't understand what is going on.
And you had the
on
other.
what grounds would they not turn that over? Do you know?
It's this weird thing that happens. They actually don't have any legal basis to do it. They'll say things like, well, ongoing investigation. That's totally made up. Even when there is an ongoing investigation and not when your suspect is dead. So like clearly no one's going to be criminally tried for that because he's dead. Even that's totally made up. There's nothing in.
Where have we seen that before? Where the suspect is dead. Where have we seen that before? Let's go back into history, right? So basically, we have two power structures competing with each other, and this is one of the cases where Dave Paulides was talking about Indian Creek. But anyway, you have two power structures and many factions trying to take over power, right? We know this because of an Smedley Butler who tried to warn the American people of a fascist takeover of the American government, right? I'm not making this up. So, we're going to look it up, right? Smedley Butler. Let's see. We have it here. The fascist takeover of the United States government.
I appeared before the Congressional Committee, the highest representation of the American people, under subpoena to tell what I knew of activities which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship. The plan as outlined to me was to form an organization of veterans, to use as a bluff or as a club at least, to intimidate the government and break down our democratic institutions. The upshot of the whole thing was that I was supposed to lead an organization of 500,000 men, which would be able to take over the functions of government. I talked with an investigator for this committee who came to me with a subpoena on Sunday, November 18th. He told me they had unearthed evidence linking my name with several such veteran organizations. As it then seemed to me to be getting serious, I felt it was my duty to tell all I knew of such activities to this committee. My main interest in all this is to preserve our democratic institutions. I want to retain the right to vote, the right to speak freely, and the right to write. If we maintain these basic principles, our democracy is safe. No dictatorship can exist with suffrage, freedom of speech, and press.
Exactly. This really happened, right? We're separating the fiction, X-Files, into fact. This really happened. A fascist takeover. So you have a small faction of fascists, imposing their will on the executive branch, right? And executive powers. We also saw this during the JFK movie, Oliver Stone talking about the military branch investing in Vietnam, right? The Vietnam War. And if we look at that, Kennedy was opposed to the Vietnam War, whilst the Pentagon said, nope, we need to fight the Viet Cong and the Communist Party and stuff like that. So go back far enough in history, and the French Revolution has, to ripple effect, the ideologues became extreme in whatever country, right? And now we are living under a corrupt society where the lie prevails, right? The lie prevails. We all have to believe in the frame of consensus, right? Yet, when we want answers, dead men tell no tales. We need to rewind there and go back to this here. And this is very important. We're talking about the transfer of power, which is going to happen tomorrow, the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, right? Enemy number one in the United States, factions trying to assassinate him in many, many ways. You really question yourself, why? Why? Aren't you allowed to be president? Yeah? Aren't you allowed to be president? So we're going to take a look at this.
So they asked the FBI, all these questions because the FBI took the lead on it. Give us all this information. At the time the Senate put out their initial report, the FBI had given them 27 pages total.
How? I mean, it's Congress. They could shut the FBI down. Like, what? I don't understand what is going on.
And you had the
on
other...
what grounds would they not turn that over? Do you know?
It's this weird thing that happens. They actually don't have any legal basis to do it. They'll say things like, well, ongoing investigation. That's totally made up. Even when there is an ongoing investigation and not when your suspect is dead. So like clearly no one's going to be criminally tried for that because he's dead. Even that's totally made up. There's nothing in the Constitution that says this agency that Congress created and is funded by Congress can just not give them stuff because reasons. It's totally made up. So I think a big reason is most people in Congress are totally weak. Like they're cowards.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They don't want to get crosswise with the FBI. It would take a lot of work. So they just kind of like, okay, I guess we won't get
ongoing investigation.
Yeah. The House committee, for example, they also did a great job. They said that the FBI interviewed over 1,000 people in the course of their investigation. And they produced over 1,000, they're called FD 302s, which is how the FBI... It's actually crazy what they're allowed to do.
I know.
They don't have to have a transcript or anything when they interview you. They just have a piece of paper that's their recollection of what you said, and then that becomes gospel.
They don't have to record it.
No. That's actually how James Comey got Martha Stewart thrown in prison.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's so dirty. But so they have 1,000 interviews, over 1,000 documents. They gave the House 81.
81 documents over 1,000. What do they have to hide here? Huh? What do they have to hide here? You know, it's really, really strange, is it not? Aren't you, as a taxpayer, allowed to know what's really going on here? Why must we speculate about UFOs and stuff like that? Why doesn't the government say, okay, there are UFOs flying around? We don't know what these things are, you know, but at least we're honest about giving the information, right? We want an informed audience, expansion of the mind, and stuff like that. That is what we want, right? And the people in power don't want that. They don't want expansion of the mind. They want, control over the mind, control over the perspective, the frame of consensus. They're using that, you know. I know that YouTube is covered with bots about what you're telling, you know, and certain keywords such as CO2, you'll get a warning from the UN climate whatever. We've also shown that, you know, but we're not talking about that, right? That is an element of control over society. Yeah. So these are all side branches. The red line here Missing people, UFOs, X-Files. Yeah, we're connecting the dots here. Dead men tell no tales, right? So, yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm maybe a conspiracy realist. Right? I know that there are conspiracies going on around the planet. It's not by accident that Trudeau is stepping down whilst Donald Trump is stepping up. That's not by accident. So I hope this is being shared worldwide, right? And I really hope that there will be a better future, a new horizon, right? A better tomorrow. I really hope that people will see the guy behind the curtain, right? What? Guy behind the curtain? Yeah, Wizard of Oz. We're also showing the parallels. Media is being used to tell the truth about certain stuff. Basically, the Wizard of Oz was about the banking cartel and stuff like that, right? You have the Tin Man, steel industry. You have the lion, the scarecrow, the farmers. The lion was represented as a worker going down the golden path with ruby shoes. Anyway, this is all reality, right? They're using fiction for giving consciousness and trying to explain reality, right? There's even a book about that, connecting it all to the banking cartel and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So it's just mind blowing. So we don't know like anything about this Crooks guy beyond, I think, like maybe a 15-minute press conference that one of the FBI, I think might have been the FBI guy out of Pittsburgh who runs that office, like 15 minutes of him talking in very vague, like 50,000 foot terms about what they knew. Oh, he searched for Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Do you remember that?
Yes.
How that came out? And that was meant to make it look like, oh, the guy didn't really have any political motives.
And there was also a partial investigation on the assassination on JFK. Jim Corrigan, we remember, right? Not Corrigan, no, Jim Corrigan is a character from DC Comics. Garrison, right? Sometimes you get things mixed up. Anyway, Jim Garrison did an investigation on the assassination of JFK, and that was also a big part of the movie JFK, right? Jim Garrison investigating it. So, and that led to nowhere,
Did he? I mean, what were his motives?
Well, I mean, the base motive was he wanted to kill Donald Trump.
Right.
Which everyone kind of got lost over. You'd have the talking heads being like, what was his motive? Well, I think he wanted to shoot Trump in the face. Just spitballing here. But so you have the FBI is like, well, he searched for Trump and Biden, so clearly he didn't have any political views. I'm like, well, how many times did he search for? What was he searching? That's like it's kind of an important thing. Well, he searched for the DNC and the RNC. Oh,
so they're withholding evidence from the public. They know who that guy is. Even I know. He was in a BlackRock commercial. We know. We know that much. So, and we know that BlackRock is an investor who's also investing in Ukraine, right? Pump and dump, as I've explained before. First invest in a war and then recycle it to make your own profit from it, right? And also enriching the faction that is in power. We have the luxury of internet and showing what's really happening here, right? But it comes with a cost. It really comes with a cost because people deem you as a conspiracy theorist. No, we're not. We're conspiracy realists, right? We know that there are conspiracies going on. So, as I've said before, money laundering through Ukraine, and here we see Polish official says half of U.S. aid to Ukraine was stolen and laundered back to Democrats. They're filling their own pockets, right? They're filling their own pockets. This is how corruption starts. They're filling their own pockets. They don't care about how many people are dying on the battlefield. They don't care. They don't care. They care about themselves. They care about the power they wield. That's what they care about, right? They want to destroy Western society by overflowing Europe, for example, with all these refugees. I wonder how these refugees came here. Who attacked Syria? Wait a minute. Wasn't that the Netherlands supporting jihadis? You may deem me as conspiracy theorist, but here we have an article, right, in Dutch. Nederland gaf steun aan jihadisten in Syrië. Netherlands gave support to jihadis in Syria. So according to two news sources, Nieuwsuur and Trouw, there was this group that the government sponsored in secret, for 3 years, named Debat al-Shamia, which our own Justice Department deems as a criminal organization with a terroristic, the risky terrorists, and criminals. And this is what our Justice Department says. And our government basically supported this for 3 years. Gave 25 million on communication devices, tents, uniforms, and we also trained these people through NATO. Through NATO. And people need to understand this. NATO is not a defensive alliance. It's an expansive alliance, right? We know. We show those the video how to stop World War III, giving a history of NATO and their expansiveness in Africa and other parts of the world, right? We know. And so we really know what's going on. And the secrets that government withheld from the tax-paying people, whether it's, outsourcing human trafficking, whether it's Green Deal or whatever else. It's amazing. It's amazing. All power structures that are there, are collapsing basically with the Donald Trump gaining power again. So they're in panic. The many factions wanting power, such as the fascists and whatever else flavor you got there in the United States. I thought America was a proud country, and but I haven't been there in quite a while, and now they're in La La Land. We see what happens in Philadelphia. People on the streets, zombified. This is very serious, right? The destruction of Western society, and we've shown what's happening over there. So let's see if we can find that video again. Here. Wait. We're all doing this with bubblegum and tape, so we don't have editors and stuff like that. We're doing this to give the frame of reality. This is reality, man. Take a look at this. The streets of Philadelphia. Streets of Philadelphia. Zombie man. This is really the land of the prosperous. Zombie guy looking on the ground, all spaced out. Really? This is the land of the prosperous, the land of the free. And the same thing is happening in Canada. Tents outside, and housing prices are so expensive. People cannot afford it anymore. And many Canadians are going up north, where the cost of living is also pretty high, but still, it is doable. So, and they're avoiding the big cities, right? Spaced out people walking around. You tell me why you're investing so much in war and not in the benefit of society. People on tents, people in tents, and stuff like that. This is the frame of reality we're giving you, right? The extortion model in the United States, it's always been that way. The mafia and all these other organizations extorting people. Now it's the It's one branch of the military-industrial complex. Opposing factions, right? That's what we're talking about. They have the technology, and they're in contact with alien species and stuff like that. You know, we're not supposed to know about this, but now we know. And now we know. So we're laying it on table, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Who knows? It's not the government giving us straight answers here. NASA, after the Explorer incident happened, they had a certain thing. NASA need another 7 astronauts. Yeah. So who knows what happened there? Right? They give the frame of consensus, but is that reality? Is that what really happened over there during the Explorer incident? Is that what really happened? We remember. Let's see if we can find what was it, 1987, I believe. 85 or what? No, not the movie. Anyway. Explorer Space Shuttle. Here, or the Challenger. Yeah, not the Explorer, the Challenger. You know, what really happened there? We're going to take a look at this.
Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
All the communications between the shuttle and mission control indicated everything was going fine. There was a sense of relief that the much-delayed flight was finally underway.
Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up.
It happened just over 1 minute into flight.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
From mission control, silence. Then the bland, chilling report.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces to see what can be done at this point.
Slow motion.
We remember. Yeah. You may show it on slow motion, but is that really what happened? Wasn't there some inside explosion? Who knows? Who knows? I want to know the truth, right? I want to have an independent research on what happened, whether it's the Challenger or 9/11 or whatever. You know, I want an independent research. And yeah, then we can atomize what really happened. You know, the media is using a frame of consensus, right? So we as citizens have a right to know. But you also have to have the interest to find out. We are the media. We are the media. We are in a battle against the mainstream media, against MSNBC and all that. You know, we're using their footage just to show what really happened. Or was it really that? You know, we're using their footage. That's what's prevailing here. So, anyway, there's so much to tell. Let's jump back here at Tucker Carlson.
Okay, great. That's utterly worthless information that I could do nothing with. And they're like, and that's it.
So we
literally don't know.
We know nothing about this kid.
No, we don't know who he was talking. Like, here are the things I would want to know. All the places he went in like the 6 months leading up to this, not just the week. I want to know every place he went. I want to know every person he talked to in person. I want to know every person he had a phone conversation with, texted with, telegrammed with, signaled with. I want to know everything he looked for on Google Maps. I want his whole internet search history. And I like want to go through it in real time and like just find out what was happening. I assume the FBI has done that. I know they have the capability to do it.
We have a right to know. Donald Trump was presidential candidate, and, you know, a very big cover-up is still ongoing, whilst they're saying there's an investigation ongoing. Yeah, right, we know. A whitewash commission. Yeah. The Warren Commission, 9/11, they're all whitewash commissions. Yeah. They need to make a frame of consensus on what really happened. They have no idea. They don't know this dude. You know, they don't care. But someone's life was on the line. Donald Trump, whether you like him or not. So this is really shocking to see. Don't we have the right to know?
Why has Congress not been told anything about it? And why have we not? It's just, and so that kind of stuff is why it's impossible for me to look at everything and be like, well, it was just a series of unfortunate accidents.
But I mean, the core question in any crime is like, why was it committed? And I mean, it sounds like there's no progress whatsoever.
None.
Well, that itself is like, just tells you that the country's in free fall, that it's just so corrupt.
Going back in history, Tucker, why was 9/11 committed? It's not about your freedoms. No. It's about a takeover, a coup. One faction of the many factions, you know, taking over. So that's what it's about, right? And the prevailing faction was the Democratic Party, which is also split in many factions, as I've said before. So, yeah, there you have it, right? This is not conspiracy theory. We're just laying it out on table what's really happening. At least in some parts. The UFO, I can't clearly identify if that's really part of the government or not, right? I don't think so. I know that there are shadowy organizations such as the Bilderberg Group, and maybe this is beyond the Bilderberg Group, you know? Talking about exopolitics, interplanetary species, and stuff like that. The things you see in Star Wars. Yeah? We also have maybe a small part to say in it as a human being, right? So we also have to put that on the table. Exopolitics, right? Interplanetary politics. So I believe it was Jean-Claude Juncker who once said he was talking to extraterrestrial life. So, yeah, according to him, this is why the European Union was made. And that's also a snowball effect, right? So,
corrupt, it can't even carry out the basic functions of government.
Right.
You're trying to figure out why murderers murder.
Right. But like who is he talking to? Was he just alone in his own silo doing all this? Did he do everything on the internet? I don't believe it, because at one point they told us, oh, he had encrypted text messages, some of which were overseas, and they just let that float out there and then never talked about it again.
Is there any evidence he was in touch with any specific person or group overseas?
None that I've seen.
None. Right. So we no details about it.
We cleared all the evidence. Dead men tell no tales. So, yeah, that's what's really happening. They're clearing the evidence, right? And they don't want the truth to come out, whether it's Donald Trump or whatever else. You know, they do not want the truth to come out. So we're going to take a look at what Bill Hicks once said, and it's excellently made in puppet style, right? So we're going to take a look at this here.
I had this feeling, man, because you know there's a handful of people actually run everything. That's true. It's provable. It's not I'm not a conspiracy nut. It's provable. Handful, very small elite run and own these corporations, which include the mainstream media. I had this feeling who's ever elected president, like Clinton was, no matter what your promises you promise on the campaign trail, blah, 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 when you win, you go into this smoky room with the 12 industrialist, capitalist scumfucks who got you in there, and you're in this smoky room, and this little film screen comes down, and a big guy in a cigar roll the film. And it's a shot of a Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before. It looks suspiciously off the grassy knoll. And then the screen goes up and the lights come up and they go to the new president. Any questions? Just what my agenda is. First we bomb Baghdad. You got it.
You see, Donald Trump goes against those shadowy interests. Right? The deep state, basically. And this is why they hate him. You know, he's not one to be commanded. Right? So, yeah, we're looking at the transfer of power tomorrow. We're not talking bullshit, right? At least partially. We've shown the X-Files, right? And the UFO, and the missing cases, the de Politis, right? We're connecting the dots here. The executive power has limited power, yeah? Yet it's basically unlimited because of the military-industrial complex, yeah? And their proxies, NATO, and stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at what's happening in Romania. Right, very, very interesting to see Călin Georgescu basically being ignored. We covered what happened in Romania, And we're also going to show why, right? Why this is all happening. Many protests in Romania because of the stalling of the elections, and we're yeah, we got to share the screen here. There we go. Protests in Romania. We've also explained this. Why there's protests going on? Because of the stalling of the elections. The European Union / NATO says there's Russian influence in the elections, which is bullshit, because NATO wants to expand and have control over the Black Sea. We're going to explain this in detail, but first we're going to take a look at this here. Now, let's read between the lines, right? Because we're talking geopolitics here. And yeah, we also need to read between the lines. If we look at Romania, it's at the Black Sea, right? And bordering Ukraine. So let's take a look at this here. Here we have Romania, Black Sea, Ukraine. And we have a message. Let's see if this is important or not. Because this is important, right? This is very important. What's happening here. You know. So the Black Sea has a pipeline running through it, right? The Turk Stream pipeline. You had the Nord Stream pipeline, which was basically blown up. Joe Biden had said, yeah, we're going to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline in the Baltic Sea. But we also have the Turk Stream, which is in the Black Sea. And there's also a supply line which went into Slovakia and Hungary, also Russian gas. And Ukraine said, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. So they're cut off, right? And the European Union is basically desperate for energy, and they had to deal with Azerbaijan. We also cover that, and Azerbaijan chooses the side of Russia concerning the war in Ukraine and says, we're not going to supply you of gas anymore. So there's also the European Union that wants a deal with China. Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Or something along those lines. So I'm not making this up, right? This is really happening. You know, I wish it wasn't, because the Chinese influence, we don't need that. We do not need Chinese influence within the EU, right? We as states within the EU have nothing to say. It's a central power Brussels that decides for the states within Europe. Now, in Germany, we have elections, right? These are state elections, and the AfD says we need to restore the pipeline, Nord Stream pipeline, and supply Germany with Russian gas. So Germany says, the AfD, nope, that is a far right-wing party, and if you are associated with the AfD, you will lose your job. Putting pressure on that political faction within Germany. Right? This is all happening. I'm trying to explain how we're losing everything, basically. The whole societies are broken down because many factions. Yeah? The Syria war, for example, Iraq war, Afghanistan, Yemen, Sudan. What about the Gaza Strip? We're talking about people here. The people. So, and the underlying currency is maybe there's a faction that has the technology of aliens and stuff like that, who is, using their leverage of power on the politicians. Shut up about this. Be quiet. We also saw UFOs over Iraq and other parts of the world, right? I'm not making this up. This is the frame of reality. As I've said before, we use the entertainment industry because they also use that entertainment industry as a tool to tell what's happening, to muddy the waters, right? What's really happening and what's shown on TV, right? Muddy the waters. We've shown it in the beginning of the episode of the broadcast, right? We showed that episode of the X-Files. We're going to show it again, right? Let's look up our history. We're all doing this with duct tape and chewing gum, put it that way. Let's see if we can find it somewhere. What's happening in New Jersey? Out here. We found it. This is how we started off the episode, the broadcast with this episode. Here we go, going full circle, talking about what's happening in politics. Many factions want power. We've shown Smedley Butler saying fascists want to take over government, and they wanted to use him as an instrument to do so. So, yeah, going full circle.
Scenario 12D. We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
But if some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The men who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
A small faction wanted Donald Trump assassinated. So, you know, they hired someone, and yeah, they killed him. Dead men tell no tales. Yeah, that's what happens. You know, they use him as a tool, and yeah, very sad thing to see. But we are connecting the dots here. You know, we're connecting the dots. Full spectrum analysis of what's going on around the planet, right? Missing people, UFOs, top secret stuff, factions that want to take power. It's all on RHTVLive, and this is not a conspiracy theory. People deem it as a conspiracy theory. You know, the underlying economy of many countries is human trafficking, right? Human trafficking of kids, you know, ending up in brothels and stuff like that. It's sickening how this world really works. And the planet is fighting back the way I see it, because there's a volcanic eruption in Hawaii. Kilauea is erupting. There we have the Kilauea volcano. This is a live feed. I'm going to show this here. It has erupted before. As you see here, this is Hawaii. So, is nature fighting back? Are we going extinct because of all these natural disasters, all these so-called natural disasters? Because if we look at what happened in California, we see 3 fire eruptions happening on the same time, right? The LA fires. There we go, 2025. Happening at the same time. And on the ground, it's hard to cover, you know, but there are satellite footages of Los Angeles, and you see 3 separate points on fire at the same time. So we know so much, right? But are we going to know the truth? There is a conspiracy floating around that LA wants to be a smart city in 2028 or something along those lines, right? So who knows? Who knows? It's up to us to find out the truth about missing people and other certain topics, such as the fires. How did this start? No? Let's see. Here we go. These are satellite images.
Satellite images show us just how devastating the LA fires have been. This image from Planet Labs from January the 7th clearly shows the very start of the Palisades fire. But by January the 8th, before and after images from Maxar begin to show us the damage to property close up. This image is from the Altadena neighborhood where the Eaton fire took hold. Smoke began to obscure most of LA, but shortwave infrared imagery can pick out fires raging on the ground. These are before and after images again from the Altadena area.
Now, it may be hard to grasp, but we see brushes here, right? Trees and such. And if we look at the images...
These are before and after images again from the Altadena area.
Trees are still standing. Maybe on fire, but still standing. And the houses are like gone. How does that work?
Every orange glow is an active fire. And in these images from Planet Labs, everything that appears red is healthy vegetation. And you can see by January the 8th, the brown areas are everything that is burned. On January the 9th, 6 separate wildfires were still burning in Los Angeles County.
I want to know the truth. I don't want to speculate on a fire. I want to know the truth. We know that there are conspiracies going on. We know about that. But what is the truth? That is up to us to find out. Let's see if we have some other satellite images. There is a certain satellite image. We see 3 separate fires. I believe it's this one here. Burning at the same time. So 1, 2, and 3, right? At the same time. How does that work out? So this is all happening, and we're just asking questions, asking questions. What about the Hawaii fires? Let's not forget about that. And now an eruption in Hawaii. Yeah, Kilauea, volcanic eruption. So here, as we've shown before. So we're not making this up, right? This is really, really happening. Yeah, we're just asking questions. Now, when a volcano erupts, right, a lot of CO2 comes into the atmosphere, and the Dutch government is trying to fight CO2, to reduce it. We said the magic keyword. Now we're going to get a warning from the United Nations, and CO2 is dangerous for humanity. No, it's part of nature. Yeah. Why is this happening? Because we're reducing the CO2. We're trying to, and it has an effect on nature. We have so-called natural resources such as windmills and solar panels. That's not good for nature. That may be good for the corporation making these windmills and solar panels, that's not good for nature. There are whales beaching up on shore, right? Because the windmills have this certain vibration, you know. I'm not making this up. We do have an effect on the planet, but the weather, yeah, we are modifying it. There is a weird mist going on. Yeah. So, and that has effect on the planet. HARP systems being used, earthquakes in Afghanistan and Turkey, the Middle East, basically, in Syria, Lebanon. Yeah, we know, we cover that. Yeah, very high class earthquakes. So the planet is fighting back, put it that way. And who knows what's going to be discovered in the near future. Who knows? Donald Trump had said we're going to carry out an attack on the deep state. Who knows? Who knows if we'll get the chance to do so, right? He doesn't have the mechanism of power yet. So I'm not putting my confidence in Donald Trump. You don't hear me saying that, you know. But he is someone who stands up against the industrialists that have sucked America dry and the bankers. So he's doing that. Let's hope that America takes a step back, looks internally what's going on, and changes some things. Because when change happens in America, it has an effect on what's happening in Europe. This is very important. So we've had many side steps on this path going into the future, and questions, what's really happening? What's really happening? Right? So, and we're looking at that. Let's see what Al Jazeera has to say. Now, Al Jazeera is a medium from Qatar, and they're looking at the Palestinian issue, the Gaza ceasefire, which Donald Trump basically had made the deal done. And yeah, we're going to take a look at this here. Joy beyond measure.
We're currently in the center of Deir al-Balah, and this is a makeshift camp. We're talking about 761 Palestinian families were displaced from the northern Gaza Strip and the Gaza City here, living the worst, harsh conditions, waiting for the minute they are going to be able to go back to their homes and go back to their neighborhoods. Talking with the Palestinians here, they're saying they're counting the seconds to go and to reach their houses. And even if their houses were collapsed and reduced into rubble, they still want to go and sit on the rubble of their houses.
We are very happy to know that we are going back to our houses and neighborhoods and to the very precious Beit Hanun. We will see our families again. We don't want wars. We don't want destruction and death. The Palestinian people face so much hardship. I suffer like everyone else. I need to feed my 2 sons. We need to go back to work and to take care of our farms and our properties. When I arrive in Beit Hanun, I will immediately go and see my house. I will set up a tent on the rubble, and I will live there. I will go back to my family, my relatives, my neighbors, and the ones that I love.
This
are proud people, you know, withstanding the assaultment on the Gaza Strip. So, yeah, they do not want to leave. And Israel, that's a sore foot for them, because they want one state. But internationally, there's a perspective for two states. So, yeah, it's not really working out. But at least there's a ceasefire, and people can breathe somewhat in the Gaza Strip, right?
Couple of bags is all what Salah and her family have. This is the only things they have left, and this is what.
No, that's their possession, and if they don't look out, then that will also be taken away, right? A very sad thing to see. We want people to prosper, whether you're a Palestinian, whether you're an Israeli, whether you're from North Korea, South Korea, I don't care. We want people to prosper, right? We'd rather see a unification of the Koreas, but it's not going to happen, I think. If you look at the Asian Pacific, who knows, maybe there's a war brewing there. We have, for example, Taiwan, right? China wants Taiwan, and Taiwan does not want to be part of China. Even though chips, computer chips and stuff like that are made in Taiwan by U.S. facilities, industries, and shipping it offshore for the poor Taiwanese people who need work, right? And shady pay and high taxes and stuff like that. Because Taiwan is, their government is basically preparing the whole population of Taiwan for an invasion that China will invade. And that's a very complex situation. It's a pressure point. We've explained this before. Pressure points in our beautiful planet, such as over here, Jammu and Kashmir. It's a pressure point, and it's uncertain who it belongs to. Afghanistan says, yeah, we have a part of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan says we have a part of that. India says we have a part of that. And China says we have a part of that, right? So that's happening. It's a pressure point, and we're not making this up. There was a war in Jammu and Kashmir in the 1970s, 80s, going on to the 1990s and early 2000s, right? So, yeah, many people don't know about this, but we're going to show a documentary, if we can find it, and you'll see what's going on over in that region.
यह है भारत का ऑफिशियल मैप, मींस इन बॉर्डर्स के अंदर का सारा हिस्सा ऑफिशियली सोवरेन इंडिया का पार्ट है.
Whoa, that's not our language. Right? At least we're talking about it. The graphic earth, not our language. Let's see if we can find something else here. Yeah, this is probably some promotional video. Let's skip over. There are many beautiful places over there, you know. It's a beautiful place, but yeah, many cultures living together as, you know, a human being would. And there are many counterparts that say, that's our part of the country, that's our part of... No. These people want to be independent for a majority and have their own government. But it's not internationally recognized. And this is a tourism video. I've spoken too much, I guess. So, let's see here, the conflict in Kashmir explained.
On February 14, 2019, a suicide bomber attacked a convoy of Indian security forces.
We're getting reports of multiple casualties in a...
He killed at least 40 Indian soldiers.
Oh, this is uploaded 5 years ago, right?
Here in Kashmir.
The deadliest attack the region has seen this century.
The bomber was part of an Islamic militant group based in Pakistan.
Jaish-e-Mohammed claimed responsibility for that attack.
12 days later, India carried out airstrikes in northwestern Pakistan. Then Pakistan shot down at least one Indian aircraft around here. Tensions rose between the two rival nations.
Can escalate. Serious escalation in years.
Kashmir is one of the most disputed places on Earth. Over the course of 70 years, it's been at the center of 3 wars, fought between 2 massive armies. It's heavily occupied by more than 500,000 Indian troops.
Yeah, 2 massive armies, not counting Afghanistan and China.
And a deadly collection of militias and terrorist groups. Kashmir is the stage for the relentless conflict between India and Pakistan. But focusing on these 2 countries can obscure what's really at stake. The voice of Kashmiris who are caught in a vicious cycle of violence.
Whenever there is any conflict between India and Pakistan, Kashmir is always the battleground.
Kashmir is a disputed area. It neither belongs to India nor belongs to Pakistan.
2 giants of nuclear giants. We are nothing in between them.
There is always uncertainty. You know, you never know what is going to happen.
It can be a hartal, it can be a strike, anybody can be killed.
You are supposed to be free as a human being. You are a woman, you're covering your face because there's an ideology that says so, and you're following that ideology, whatever. So it's weird. I don't understand that, but it's weird. But I do understand that Jammu and Kashmir wants to be their own sovereign state, right? And this is excluding Afghanistan and China, as I've said before. So...
killed anytime.
We are the pawns in their hands.
It's a mess. It is a mess, and we have been affected in every possible direct and indirect way.
I have been born in this conflict, and I have to die within this conflict.
Kashmir is one of the most strategic places in the world, where 3 powerful countries collide: India, Pakistan, and China. China invaded and took this slice of Kashmir from India, and was given this one by Pakistan. India and Pakistan control these parts, but lay claim to more.
Yeah, but Pakistan and Afghanistan are in war in this region here, right? So they also want Kashmir, and yeah, that's what's happening. They're excluding Afghanistan. Well, maybe they're not. Let's look further into this.
This region is at the center of a brutal conflict over these disputed borders, so it's important to start when the borders are being drawn. In the mid-1800s, India was a patchwork of several hundred provinces and princely states under British rule. A century later, when British India won independence, the British left and hastily decided to split the region into two. These areas would be a new Muslim-majority country, Pakistan, and this would be the mostly Hindu but secular India. The partition was bloody.
Communal hatred flares up in the Punjab. 1 million people become refugees overnight. They flee from savagery and butchery that has never been exceeded, even in India's stormy history.
Amid the chaos, some princely states were given the choice to join either country. In most cases, the ruling monarchs followed the will of their people. But this state, called Jammu and Kashmir, was different. It was right along this new border and had a Muslim-majority population, but was ruled by a Hindu monarch. When asked to pick a side, the ruler chose to stay neutral. Fearing that the monarch would join India, the Kashmiri population rebelled here in 1947. Armed tribesmen from Pakistan soon joined the fight. The monarch turned to India for military help, and in exchange agreed to join them, which sparked the First Indo-Pakistan War in Kashmir.
Continuing thus increased the threat to world peace and brought the dispute to the attention of the United Nations.
The UN Security Council brokered a ceasefire in 1949, which established this line, with Pakistan controlling this side and India this one. It also asked Pakistani tribesmen to withdraw and Indian troops to follow so that Kashmir could hold a direct vote to decide its own future. But neither held up their end of the deal. Pakistan argued that Kashmir's Muslim-majority population rightfully belonged with them, while India insisted that Kashmir was handed over to them by the Hindu monarch, so they doubled down and added Kashmir to their constitution. The vote was never held.
I think every person in Kashmir has been affected by India and Pakistan.
The Kashmir is completely destroyed by India as well as by Pakistan.
This is a territorial dispute, they call it. They don't need
the people. They need the war. They need the conflict. Right? That's what they need. We're dealing with very evil people. They don't care about the people in Kashmir. They don't care. They don't care about people in Nepal or other eastern parts or anywhere on the planet, basically. They're in power and they have control over the media. They have control over the branches of social media, and basically they have control over our parliaments. NATO has control over our parliaments, and yeah, it's a very, very sad thing to see, but we are awake. We know what's going on. We know what's going on. You know, we know. We know. So I think I've said enough for today. We will be back tomorrow during the inauguration, if that's covered on TV and internet. We will be watching, right? Very, very important to see what's going on. So I hope you enjoyed the almost 3-hour broadcast. We could do this all day, you know, all day. Start with Babylon, basically, until now. But we also want to invite guests from Canada, from Ukraine, from other parts of the world, and give a perspective on what's happening in Romania, for example. You know, we're just on the outside looking in, but we want boots on the ground, and we're looking for interviews, and we want to show the frame of reality, the truth, what's really going on. What's really going on. So, Dave Politis, if you're watching, we streamed your broadcast, and I'd like to have you on. I'd really like to have you on and talk about these missing cases, you know. So if there are other people out there listening to this broadcast, please share. We're not asking money, you know. Maybe we'll put some theories on table, and the UFO thing. Who knows? Who knows? But we're just connecting dots here, you know, trying to show the audience that there's a system that uses our blood, not only our spirit, but our blood, and they don't care. The people in power do not care, right? That the system is abusing us. The freedom of speech in the Netherlands, it's on a slippery slope. We've had people put into jail for half a year because they projected White Lives Matter on a bridge. Isn't that freedom of speech? You know, isn't that Black Lives Matters everywhere? But White Lives Matter, we're going to put you in jail. So there's a lot going on. We are conscious of that. And as I've started, right, Alan Watts says basically that there's a human consciousness, but we also ignore a lot of stuff. We don't want this information, right? Many of us don't. Many of us deem it as a conspiracy theory. Listen to that wacko. Listen to that wacko, right? No. These are conspiracy facts. Right? Conspiracy facts, not theories. So, I implore you to share this, and we're going to shut off with a song, and probably not get a warning from YouTube, from Facebook, saying you're using copyrighted material. We'll see. Right? We're covering this live. Normally, I get like a warning from Facebook saying, we're not allowed to play this. No, not allowed. But we know that Mark Zuckerberg did not want to go into jail with P. Diddy, did not want to have a freak off with him, and basically did a 180 and said no fact checking anymore on Facebook. Now, who knows if Mark Zuckerberg will comply to that. I hope we're not going to get a warning from Meta. You're not allowed to play this. Yeah, screw you. It's on YouTube, man. So anyway, we're going to close off with one of our favorites, Jesse Wells. And he is going to sing about the LA fire. This is 3 days ago. And let's see what he has to say about this. Right. Right. uh, Listen to the music, but you can't hear it because I'm not sharing the screen. Anyway, uh, Jesse Wells has lots of songs, and we were just listening to one of the songs, but we did not share the screen. So here we have Jesse Wells, LA Fires, singing about the LA Fires. And we're going to close off with this here. Even though we do not care if we're going to get a warning or whatever, we face the consequences, even from YouTube. I don't care, man. I want to be free. I want to be free. I want the consciousness to grow and expand, basically. You know, I don't care which country you're from. You deserve to be free.
Come gather round, friends, and I'll tell you a tale where the wildfires glow and the government fails. 40,000 acres burnt and it's growing. 25 folks dead, more that we ain't knowing. And the question it raises on everyone's minds is how and why, oh why. Fox says it's lesbians, well that clears it up. I thought it's climate change, but fair enough. Good God, California's got the drought and bad government planning. The winds of Santa Ana, oh the taxes are high and the pastures are plenty, where the fires are hot and the hydrants are empty. Incompetence and greed and budget cuts are sure to stir you up some real bad luck. State Farm looked into its crystal ball and said, no, honey, and they plumb withdrawn. Some fires on purpose, some on accident. We can crawl down that rabbit hole in a bit, but prayers to the people that lost their homes or a portion of their portfolio. Is it a globalist plot for economic collapse, or is BlackRock clearing off a spot on the map? Our brains are small and our problems are large. I think it's safer to say nobody's in charge.
Well, not yet. Not yet. You know, Donald Trump is going to say, make America great again, and we're going to solve the world problems, such as Ukraine and stuff like that. And yeah, people have faith in the leader in charge, right? At least I do not have faith in Biden. Put it that way. Let's hope for new pastures and hope for a new horizon. I thank you all for watching, and I hope this is shared on every corner of the world. And who knows? Who knows? We'll see each other again next time.